Jared, yours. Morning. Nice to meet
Whenever you're ready, Jared.
December 17th, 1998, my life was changed dramatically. On that December day 5 years ago, my family brought 2 new members into our lives. Sergey, who was 7, and Christina, 10 at the time, were from an orphanage in St. Petersburg, Russia, half a world away. Getting acclimated to a new country, new family, and new atmosphere proved a challenge for all of us, and it quickly became clear that they had a lot to learn about life in America. The most obvious challenge was the language barrier. I remember one time when Sergey, not knowing what Chinese fortune cookies were called, blurted out that he wanted to eat an ear, knowing the names of body parts and observing that the cookies looked like ears. And the dish-shaped salmon patties my family regularly eats became circle fish. He still uses these terms to this day, and they've even become part of my vocabulary too. But there have been times when I definitely wasn't amused by the language barrier that separated us. Frantically flipping through that little blue Russian English dictionary got real old, real fast. But I soon learned to ask, "Как это по-русски?" meaning, how do you say this in Russian? Another thing Sergey and Christina had to get used to were the cultural differences between their country and ours. Food was scarce in their house and orphanage, and potatoes and cabbage were their daily meals, with a lack of fresh fruit and meat. In the beginning, it was nearly impossible to keep bananas in our house because they both eat 3 or 4 a day if they could, and we eventually had to either hide the bananas or stop buying them altogether. And if you can have too much potassium, I'm pretty sure they got close. Their entertainment in Russia was also different from ours here. They always wanted to watch Alf because that's what they had watched in Russia, and they played on those primitive old regular Nintendos. And these things, of course, were just the beginning. It quickly became clear that Sergey and Christina had a lot to learn about life in America if we were ever to become a happy family. But what I eventually came to appreciate was that I had a lot to learn too, about the life they had come from in Russia. My brother and sister, I came to realize, had endured very difficult lives. They moved from a home where their parents neglected them to an orphanage where food was scarce, education was almost non-existent, and their futures could not continue with any certainty past age 16 when they would be kicked out on the streets. They had nothing, owned nothing at all except for a few photographs and 1 or 2 books. They came from a place where girls are kicked out of crowded orphanages and become prostitutes just to have a chance at food or shelter. They came from a place where virtually nobody owns a vehicle, where you often have to wait hours in line for food, and where jobs are never certain. They came from a place where education is a nuisance because it won't help you too much anyway, where medical care is in short supply, and where family and friends are not what they are here in America. They came from a place where religion takes a back seat to simply staying alive. For someone like me, this was all very hard to understand. Here in America, we all got along in a loving environment where we played sports, went to school daily, and had more toys and clothes than we could ever know what to do with. For us, opportunity was unlimited. But for my brother and sister in Russia, the only unlimited thing was their limitations. It was only when I came to see the complete picture of where my brother and sister had come from that I was able to relate to them in a meaningful way. Happily though today, my family has adjusted well and couldn't be better. Sergey is involved and gifted and talented, he plays sports and is a normal rowdy kid. Christina was a cheerleader in junior high and has also skipped a grade after catching up from her less than adequate education in Russia. And me, I've learned that I should always remember where my brother and sister came from and never take anything for granted, that I should make the most of the opportunities my country here has provided me with, and that if my family can overcome all the struggles to get to this point, then we can overcome anything.